co-sleeping. I hear from a lot of mothers who are ambivalent about co-sleeping because of what their family systems say. You're going to spoil the child. They should be able to self-regulate. Whatever these ideas are that some parents and grandparents have about a mother's decision to co-sleep with her baby, I would say are pretty much insane, right? Every mammal in the world stays with their mother for months after being born, by their side all day, every day, okay? You're an animal. I'm an animal. And the body regulates, the baby's temperature is regulated by the mother's temperature. The baby's pulse is regulated by the mother's pulse. This is not true only when it is in the womb. This is true when the baby comes out of the womb, and we would call this the 4th trimester, but which makes absolutely no sense because it would be a quarter, but that I believe should be extended far longer. Right? We are animals where our babies are the most fragile of all mammals, and they take the longest to grow up under our wing. And I think a lot of mothers are told, oh, it's fine, your baby's gonna be fine, it ended up fine, I ended up fine, I was put in a crib, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, so did I. I ended up great. I was put in a crib, but the wounds of the energetics that it has taken me to deal with the what that meant, because sometimes I was forced to sleep with my mother and sometimes I was kicked out, and it was always very confusing. And that inability for a baby to self-regulate, like the cried out thing, dude, I was a single mom. I get it. I get the tendency where like I'm literally going, like I'm gonna hurt this kid if it doesn't like stop. Like I'm gonna hurt myself, or I have to lock myself in a room. Trust me, I've had to lock myself in a room a couple times, but I've never let my kids cry it out, okay? And what I mean by that is like, dude, your kid is not capable of self-regulating and and emotionally regulating and self-regulating, and if you expect them to be, you yourself were forced to self-regulate at a time that you were not able to self-regulate. And just because that was done to you doesn't mean it should be done onto your child. So in every other country, and for eons, people have been co-sleeping, okay? Co-sleeping is normal. It is natural. If your family that is against co-sleeping tells you it is not normal, it's not natural, and that you're spoiling your child, I want you to understand that co-sleeping is a fruit. This is how I put it in Earn Your Luck. I didn't talk about co-sleeping, but it is not spoiling your child. It's fruit ripe on the branch, right? It is not this, oh, I've fallen from the tree, I'm rotting on the ground by myself frequency that, no offense if this is what you've chosen to do, but if a baby is born and you put it in a room separate from you, and sometimes there are extreme circumstances that you have no choice, right? But if you have a choice to co-sleep with your baby, to keep your baby at your heart, to keep your baby with you, by all means, that's what you should be doing. By all means, because your baby is your baby's biology is deeply connected to your biology, and I believe a very large part of the mother wound is the kicking out the frequency. A very large part of codependent frequency is a baby who did not get to suckle at the breast, who did not get to sleep at their mother's heart, who did not get that sense of existence with versus existence for. The sense, and I only know this, I feel spoiled now that I know what love is when my babies are safe in my arms, and I go, oh my God, I want the whole world to experience this. Like, who am I to deserve that I get to love these kids this way? Well, I didn't get to be a kid that got that, right? But I get to be a parent that gives that. And a big piece of this, like, I will know when my children are crying and if I'm in a different house than them, because that's the natural bond of the mother-child relationship. You look at mother and baby whales, and the mother calls, and that baby is vulnerable, is out and about, comes, it knows exactly the call of the mother, right? And that takes a while. It doesn't leave the mother's side for a really long time. My point is, there is always a communication between a child and a mother. And sometimes the mother fears that communication. She doesn't like that communication. It makes her feel super vulnerable, very maybe even like needed in a way that she's resentful that she's needed. I don't know what that is because I've never experienced it. I just am grateful to experience the deep connection of what it means to be a mother who knows my children by heart, who can hear their communications even when they're not communicating. And the only way that it happens for me, and maybe I'm wrong about that, maybe I'd be that way anyway, but is co-sleeping and nursing on demand. And you know, you don't have to nurse if you can't nurse or whatever, but I am a big proponent in nursing. I am a big proponent in letting your children individuate when they are ready, not when you are ready. So that might look like nursing your 5-year-old. That is a really big deal. My daughter actually recently, about co-sleeping, let's go here. This is healthy individuation. One day she said, I'm ready to sleep in my own bed. And she did that night. And all of a sudden she's been doing the same thing every night. And it was just one day she was ready. I didn't force her out of our room. She wanted to go. I've potty trained all of my kids like that. I've stopped nursing all of my kids like that, except one of them when I was like so done, like you're done. But that was Mama Bear wisdom coming out. But when it comes to healthy individuating, a lot of mothers go, you're too old for that. My mother still would be like, tell my daughter she's too old to nurse, she's too old for this. It's like, no, she actually one day will be so full from that experience, which is what healthy development is, that she will naturally be so full of herself in that experience that she will move beyond that experience. But I believe that narcissists are raised when they're not able to actually think of themselves first, and codependents are raised in the exact same way. One just defaults to the flip side. But when they're not actually allowed to think of themselves first because they're always thinking of somebody else, or their parents are always thinking of them first instead of thinking of themselves first, which puts this pressure on them to always be thinking about themselves the way that their mother is, and then they just morph into whatever that thing is. My point is, when the work is true integration. The work of self-development, the work of raising a child, the work of being a child who is raised is all about integration. And integration looks like adding on, not taking away, right? So it's like, I'm not gonna take away her experience of co-sleeping. I'm not gonna take away her nursing and shame her and belittle her so she only gets half of the experience because she's feeling bad for having the experience she's having. I'm gonna let her have the full experience. And then when she's ready, she's going to move beyond the experience. That's healthy individuation. That's healthy, a stage fulfilled. That is her fulfilling the stage. I've never potty trained any of my children for this exact same reason. And I have a lot of people that I work with, their kids are, have severe potty issues. I was potty trained by the time I was 16 months old. That's insane. That's not normal. Okay? And on top of that, I remember being 5 years old, my mom would force me to pee before school. I was so resistant. I was constipated all the time. I was always so resistant to peeing. And I was also very allergic to chemicals, mind you. And I didn't pee, but she would hear me outside the door. I would pour Clorox from the closet down the toilet because I just absolutely was resistant to it. Okay? That's not normal to resist my own bodily urges and needs for the sake of going like, you can't control them like in me anymore. When a kid doesn't feel controlled, they feel in control, okay? And that's what I want for all of my kids to feel. That's what I believe co-sleeping does. That's what I believe letting them nurse until they're ready. And if you're so done that it's really unenjoyable for you to relax with them in the nursing phase, stop nursing them, for sure. If it's really unenjoyable for you to co-sleep with them, like my daughter, we had to make her get out of the bed because she'd kick me in the face. Okay, she can be next to the bed, and then she moves into her own space. That's healthy individuating. Let them have the experience. Your body is their home. Your body is your child's earth. The second that it is born, the first thing it looks for is you. The first thing it wants, it's you. Everything it knows is you, okay? And if you take that baby and go, well, I'm gonna just put you in another room, you're gonna be over there, the thing is that baby is now a vital part of you. And for you to naturally, and this is the thing too for parents who are like afraid to be parents, for you to integrate this into your life, it might be really helpful for you to actually let them in. Let them into your bed. Let them onto your breast. It doesn't matter what your mother says about you spoiling them. Babies are not made to self-regulate, period, right? They're infants. Every cry means something. Every single cry means something different. And this is not to say like I'm an amazing mother. What it is to say is I am very acutely aware of all of my kids' different cries and what they mean. And Chris would look at me and be like, how do you even know that? Like, what are you doing? It's not freaking rocket science. It's connection and honoring the connection. And the way to do that is to disregard all of the chatter about all the people who tell you you're spoiling your child, or you need to take care of yourself by not having them in your bed. You need to do all of these things with your child. That I wonder what they were doing with their child, who was giving them advice, because like, thanks for your advice, dude, but it's my kid. And it works for us, right? You're allowed to be a mom. You're allowed to be the mom. Especially if you didn't have a matriarch who was offering you solid guidance on being a mom. You're allowed to be the matriarch in your own way, right? You're allowed to be the mom. You're allowed to take a stand for your child and protect your child in a way that no one felt allowed or capable or willing to do for you. And I deeply believe that that really does start. And a lot of people can say, oh, well, what if I like suffocate my baby? What if this thing happens when I'm co-sleeping? I mean, if you're a mother and you lay your baby on your chest, I mean, to be fair, this is a God's honest truth. I haven't slept through a night in over 6 years. That's fine with me. Okay? It's a little bit exhausting, but the truth is like, it's worth it to me to know that in 3 years, I'm going to sleep through a night, and I'm going to not have 35-year-olds still trying to suckle the breast, so to speak, because I didn't let them do it in the phase that it was necessary for them to do it. And they're still looking for that thing that they didn't get. Right? I was that baby. I was that 35-year-old still looking for somebody's breast to suckle on and go, please be my nurturance, please be my resources, because I didn't get it. That is what happens when we don't get it. And it creates codependency like crazy, that frequency of like, I've been abandoned. And when I am alone, I am abandoned. And I don't know who to be if I am alone, because this means I'm not wanted. And then that means I'm not worthy of being wanted. That means I don't want myself, and that means I don't want my life, and then I resist life, and blah, blah, blah. We want healthy children. Let's give them the room to be healthy. And I'm obviously, dude, if you're here, I mean, it's titled, like, if you're considering co-sleeping, if you're considering it, that's your mama bear wisdom. And lots of life is going to challenge you about your mama bear wisdom. There's going to be things that if you're really intuitive, you're going to be like, nah, dude, I get that you're a doctor, I get that you are a teacher, I get that like all of these credentials you have mean something, but guess what? I got guts. And they mean something more to me about my kid than they do about anything else. And that mama bear wisdom is allowed to come out. If you're thinking about co-sleeping, I believe that you can trust yourself to do that. And I believe that your baby would benefit from it, and that your, I mean, there's no way, because you don't, it's not like you're not sleeping, but you're connected to them in a way like I wake up before my kids cry. I know they're going to cry. And that's because I don't believe it's just because I'm sensitive. I believe it's because I've offered the potential to be in reception of the sensitivity of them. And that them having that young, it's going to create, like my daughter when she said, I'm ready to sleep in my own bed. It was a no-brainer. One night my son was 3 years old. It was on his third birthday. He woke up in the middle of the night, went to the bathroom, didn't even ask me for help, and never ever peed the bed again, never used a diaper again. And I never tried to make that happen. Kids aren't going to grow up when they're 30 years old shitting their pants normally if they're healthy, right? They're going to be potty trained. They're going to stop nursing. They're going to start talking when they're ready. Like all of these things that a lot of people pathologize that are natural animal tendencies that are necessary for evolution and necessary for survival, but also for thrival. Our system pathologizes and says, oh, do it this way, do it that way. You don't have to be a part of that. You can trust yourself as a mama bear. You're allowed, because you're an animal and your baby's an animal. And If you have had the blessing of going through natural childbirth, I'm sure you're very acutely aware of the truth of what that means, not just the concept of what that means. And when you honor the animal, oh my God, everything else just falls into place, because the spirit is not in resistance. The animal's not in resistance to the spirit, right? And it is the spirit that is connecting me in communication to this other animal. And it is what is between us is actually the substance of spirit itself. And that between us is always in communication for me. Even the night that my son had a heart attack, I heard him say, he was at his friend's house, I heard him say, "Mom, I'm bugging out." And he was 15 years old. And I was like, "You're crazy, Stace. Like, he's at his friend's house. He's probably just doing some stupid shit, like drinking or something. Like, he's just doing some 15-year-old shit." And an hour later, I got the phone call that, come pick him up. And then 3 hours later, I was being told by a doctor that he might not live through the night. I am in communication with my children because I honor the animal that they are. I let them have that experience of being the animal and letting the animal come first. And that integrates them in a spiritual way. So I hope this was helpful for you. I am Stacy Hoch, author of Imperfectly Sane and Earn Your Luck, a field guide for living beyond your narcissistic parents' wildest dreams. It's going to take me a while to say that subtitle. Leave a comment. Please subscribe if you dig the content, and I will see you on the flip side. And if you're not subscribed to my newsletter, I don't send things often, but head over to stacyhoch.com and check out my newsletter. Get on it so you can be the first to know what's up. I'll talk to you soon. Hope this was helpful. Bye.